Hello, Cardstack community. My name is Chrissy. I'm the founding director of the Cardstack project, coming to you from the land of the Web3. Today, I'm so glad to be joined by the CBDO of GetBlock, which is a blockchain node provider, and many more, Aziz Amer Tash, who's going to illuminate us on the front line of decentralization and the ability for us to participate in a network without having to worry about all the infrastructure necessary to actually be your own node. So welcome, Amir, to the Web3 Watch series.
Hey guys, hello Chris, thanks for having me. I'm super glad to be here. My name is Aziz, I'm Chief Business Development Manager Officer at GetBlock, a leading blockchain node providing service. And thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. So I think when people think about blockchain, they think about this as something that just exists. We use the word ether, in the ether. Ethereum is kind of come from that word. But the truth is that there's a lot of work that goes into maintaining and running and using the infrastructure that's in there. Can you tell us a little bit about, like, recognizing the reality of blockchain infrastructure? What is the kind of like the vision behind GetBlock, and how do you get involved in this particular venture?
Yeah, well, I also had lots of rumors and so many questions about blockchain infrastructure and the crypto world. So we are just here to somehow shed light on these specific topics. So let me start from quick introduction about GetBlock and the vision behind it. So GetBlock is about optimization and time safety. It's a very simple and at the same time complex product helping tons of developers with running and maintaining blockchain nodes. To make a long story short, we offer ready-to-use blockchain nodes for decentralized applications. Through our API-driven technology, any application can utilize the computational power of Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB chain, Polygon, Solana, and other leading chains. So GetBlock is also about people, multinational team operating from different countries, united by the idea of delivering cost-effective tools and scalable infrastructure that help developers to build projects faster. It's kind of a one-string API solution for all the tasks you do.
Yeah, so if you're a developer who is familiar with Web2 development, you know that API is the backbone of all experiences. You figure out what API is provided, sometimes from some new provider, sometimes from Amazon or Google. How do you think the gap is being filled with these kind of blockchain infrastructure, which has APIs? Like we talked about having Ethereum API using JSON-RPC, and there's also some other way to connect to it in a more real-time basis, use WebSocket. What kind of API is available to the developer through the GetBlock infrastructure?
Yeah, well, it's just an API solution allowing you to get access to the blockchain nodes and start using it quite properly in terms of exchanging the data, sending the transactions, exploring the smart contracts, etc., etc. So this is just a kind of a key to the door of the crypto world where you get access to all the data within the network.
And what kind of network is being supported right now in your platform?
I guess it's more than 40. It's more than 40 plus blockchains available right now. Besides the one popular like Bitcoin, BNB chain, Polygon, Solana, Tron, etc., we're also constantly adding more and more chains. We have a kind of dedicated team that explores all the upcoming and new coming blockchain nodes, and we start talking to them, exploring their documentation. Once we set up the wonderful partnership together, we add it to our service so that people could get more access to more like different and various blockchain nodes that we have.
In full disclosure, Cardstack is a customer at GetBlock. We use your Gnosis chain archive node for some of the analytic functions. I think there is so that we can have a longer history of access to longer history of the transaction that has happened in our protocol. So do you see a certain usage pattern that is emerging? Do you see a shift from, people always talk about developers are moving to this chain or that chain? Obviously, with different nodes and different types of services provided, you can have a kind of bird's eye view on the developer activity and what kind of chains we can spin up. What are you seeing in the ecosystem right now?
Well, it's quite a good question in terms of exploring, because the crypto world was Web3 space is constantly changing. It's very dynamic. Like day to day, we see lots of projects are opening, and each project is quite unique and very individual with its own universe, as we call it, as a metaverse. So what we do right now is just having constant talks with them, some interviews. Once we get the clients, we start being interested in the way how we can assist to a particular project. And the more projects we talk to, the more interesting tasks we see to work with. So basically, we see that the Web3 is constantly going forward with, having lots of branches where people are just kind of getting interest in more deep zones where they can find some, some areas where people can optimize any process. So GetBlock is also about optimization. We found this niche. We saw that people are struggling with problems maintaining and running nodes, and we saw that people are just, it's not about launching one blockchain node, it's also about maintaining and it's scaling it so that it might be suitable for different projects and suiting their goals. So we found this problem and we saw like, okay, let's do this this thing so that people could boost their projects without thinking about running and maintaining nodes by themselves, because we saw like if we look at the different documentations and go like deeply to what is blockchain, so we see that each of the blockchain protocol has its own large documentation to look at and methods with synthesis to explore, and that is the moment when people are usually stuck and need some help. And one thing is just to launch a node, as I said. The other story is about maintaining. So that is sad. GetBlock takes all this responsibility and provides one single string in API format where all these tasks are solved. All you have to do is just add this string to your code and you get access to the node that you'd like to work with.
Right. Obviously you have, various types of layers of services for people who are starting out versus for teams that's scaling up. What is the migration path when a developer, let's say, doing a weekend project or a hackathon project getting started, and then they get, some more total value lock or TVL and they get bigger and bigger? What is the migration path from like a shared node to a dedicated node to the cluster node? Is it something that's as seamless as it seems, or is it something that requires migration on the developer team's part?
Well, I guess to answer this question properly, may I just kind of shed light on listeners what is the shared and dedicated nodes, because I've had so many questions on that.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so basically, GetBlock provides shared blockchain nodes and dedicated blockchain nodes. These are the two main categories of service we're proudly offering to our clients. Well, our shared nodes can use clients can use node service together with their peers. The number of requests to shared nodes is therefore limited to make sure that the shared nodes is stable and reliable. We just made some limitations on that. Typically, we recommend shared nodes as an entry-level option for early stage dApps with low traffic, where people are just starting to think about like with a small idea where they start exploring the crypto market, where the hackathon goes, students with the different projects. So shared nodes can be useful for testing and R&D purposes. Also for kind of experimental purposes, we offer APIs for testnets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polkadot, etc. So then once the project is grown up, as you've mentioned, that it started to scale, we offer dedicated nodes API. This is our premium level product. Our clients can leverage from the technical capacity of a server for their specific purpose. So every user of our dedicated node gets unlimited requests, premium 24/7 technical support, easy to use analytical dashboards, access to blockchain through various API interfaces like JSON-RPC, WebSockets, GraphQL, and the opportunity to deploy third-party software on our own infrastructure. So what they just go with the request saying, hey Aziz, we'd love to open our wallet and we need those specific nodes with this specific feature. Can you please do this? We say, yes, definitely. It's just, and this is how it works. We customize all the time the infrastructure, particularly specifically focused on a project our clients working at. So that's why dedicated nodes are very reliable in terms of scaling and moving on. So the same works with clusters, because cluster is about the several nodes put together so that people would have, very easy switching between one node to another node, and play with the load, with loading different type of requests to the nodes without even thinking that the uptime would go down or something. So yeah, this is just, as you've mentioned, the gradation goes like shared, dedicated, and then clusters.
So, your service obviously, for the people who have been in the Ethereum space and doing Solidity development, the first word that comes to mind for node infrastructure or shared node infrastructure would be Infura, and then Infura has gotten into the other things. How do you think you compare to some of the other providers who have kind of spawned up, some of them more focused on the ETH ecosystem, some of them has kind of a broader way? What is the differentiator for GetBlock?
Yeah, well, we had lots of conversation with the other node providers. It's kind of a huge rumor that we're all the time competing together and, kind of playing a war together. Still, where we had some very nice and friendly talks together with Infura, with Morales we had, and with like with other different node providers, and we were thinking about optimization and the way how we can help people, Web3 developers to with the tools that may solve their problems. And in terms of, still we have our own unique philosophy we follow and the mission we have, as I guess some of the node providers, as you've mentioned, are quite limited in terms of the blockchain nodes, like available list of the blockchain nodes they have. Meanwhile, GetBlock is quite flexible. And we also have, as a unique feature, on our side, we put customization, because we understand that each project is unique and has its own specific requirements. So we go forward to all these changes. We are ready to change our infrastructure, like suit it as best as possible to the project's needs. So, and another thing is that we also mentioned that we have, I wouldn't say that, but still, clients all the time underline that we have the best technical support system, where you get instant responses to any question. If you don't know how something works, just you're free to write to us, and we'll answer, I guess, in a few seconds. So this is one of the strongest feature we have.
Yeah. What's really interesting about it is that, the setting up of the infrastructure necessary for a dApp project, you realize there's still a lot of things that look like cloud and SaaS service. And this is you're an organization that's operating in that cloud and SaaS space, similar to other kind of Web2 businesses. Do you guys accept Web3 payment for your service, or are you still focusing on more traditional invoicing and fiat payment? How do you incorporate the Web3 kind of financial aspects to your operation of your business?
Yeah, we have lots of, I guess, options for payment. We firstly started to accept crypto payments, because that was very suitable and convenient for early stage launching projects. Since they were into the crypto world, they were thinking about okay, it's better for us to, if we would just pay for service using crypto. Meanwhile, some other node providers were at the same time using fiat, and some of them had kind of subscription model where you just put the credit card details to the service, and it was just automatic charging. We had a bit different model when users don't have to pay for the request or for the credits you don't use. So in other words, there is no any limitation in terms of, we would talk about shared nodes. There is no limitation in terms of deadlines, like once you got this any package you purchase, you have kind of 1 month to use it, or it will expire. No, we just we thought if we can provide users with the requests, let's say 1,000 requests they purchased, and these 1,000 requests will remain till the user uses them all. So in other words, you don't have to pay if you still have any credits, and it won't go off or expire.
Right.
So that was very convenient. In terms of Web3, we hear a lot of feedback that crypto payment is much more convenient for them rather than using fiat right now. So that's why we're very open to this. Any token or any coin that they would love to, they prefer to pay with. So we're quite open in terms of accepting the invoices. So it's not a problem for us.
Yeah, no, I've spoken to a few of these kind of providers, including the folks from Nansen, who sells a very valuable subscription-based, more of a traditional SaaS subscription-based service for crypto traders, and they're open to that too because they're now doing a Web3 connection to kind of get your portfolio into the system to help you analyze your own wallet. And it's a very, very small step to say take the USDC that you have in it to pay for the, I don't know how much a month that would be, the VIP service for Nansen. Everybody wish they have a Nansen account, not everybody do. But I think there's a really good intersection where these crypto native business like yours or Nansen or otherwise start being kind of the pushing for the adoption for crypto payment, which has been something that's lagging behind.
That's true. That's true. We also started.
So,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's about, as you've mentioned it correctly, we see that nowadays even those node providers that were using only fiat payment are just starting to switching to the crypto payment, like accepting crypto payments as well. And that's make kind of, Web3 started, since Web3 is growing, we saw that like requirements to accept crypto payments started to grow as well. And the team players we call like our competitors, or let's say the same node providing services, the team players also started to accept crypto payments. Still, larger companies are like interested and prefer more about classical and traditional way of using fiat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why
the hardest thing in big companies is to get like an invoice process. So once you have a working process, you just want to like use it. Introducing to your CFO crypto payment if you haven't done it before, that's gonna take 6 months.
Yeah, so usually we have this kind of the process where these giant companies, they say, oh, we cannot actually like currently provide you with any crypto payments. Can we go to the bank transfer or something? So we totally understand this way as well. So any option is available.
It's definitely both, but we know that a lot of early stage startup gets funded nowadays, even in a venture round in USDC. so they have access to these tokens and that can be used for commercial reason, and they pay contractors. So I think we are on Gnosis chain because we're working on a payment protocol. So it does make sense for us to use a low cost layer 2 protocol to think about what are the workflow for receivables, for payables, exchange rates, rate locking, even refunds and disputes. So this is something that I believe that once the infrastructure in place and the demands are there for the customers say, hey, I've got crypto USDC on layer 2 on Optimism, I would like to use them on Polygon or otherwise, it would be good to provide that option. Zooming out a little bit, obviously Web3 is not just about blockchain, right? We're seeing a lot more discussion about Web3 being more social network. There's like file storage for the media. There is messaging. Do you guys plan to provide, as the infrastructure expands beyond the traditional blockchain smart contract platform, to have nodes of different sorts, like Ceramic Network has certain types of file storage, indexing nodes, and there may be opportunity to do like messaging nodes or other type of relay or peer-to-peer communication nodes. What's your plan about fulfilling the needs as Web3's definition expands?
Yeah, we had lots of talks about this within company. We have a huge roadmap devoted to particularly extending blockchain, the GetBlock's service as a blockchain as a service company. And we just go technically. GetBlock is not also about blockchain nodes, it's also about explorers, and we're just moving and developing one more product. You'll know a bit later, so we're just still like working on that. This is kind of a surprise. So that's why I do recommend you to stay tuned. You'll be the first one who would know that, because we're just spending kind of small signs on that. Anyway, okay, so this is just a bit different from like a classical way of blockchain as a service. So like kind of the feature, this is just a bit different one. I guess you'll know a bit better like later in more detail. But yeah, we were also thinking about kind of creating community where Web3 developers could communicate freely together, share their ideas, and maybe we could act as kind of the as a mediator or something, where we just connect those people together, probably doing some kind of the MEA sessions, education or something. And
Yeah.
GetBlock also started to focus on education very closely, and I guess recently we've paid attention to on that. Many users in internet surfing, kind of the newcomers, are very interested in understanding how blockchain works, what can be done, is there anything else they can, uh, open or maybe, innovate or something. So it's better to kind of inform them about the current solutions. Maybe it will help them in the future. So we're thinking about kind of education projects that we are starting to launch. We are now kind
Mm-hmm.
of going deeply to collaborate with different universities and started doing some courses together, maybe some kind of you know uh,
Right.
yeah, it's like kind of communities within students. So that's why we started with hackathons, where we saw lots of people were sparking into, they had so many enthusiasm, and so they were so like kind of inspired with the ideas of providing something to the crypto world. And we said, okay, those guys should be within our community because we see that there is a huge fire in
Yes,
them.
absolutely.
And yeah, so that is amazing, when you talk to them. And this is something that inspires and all the time supports you guys, those specifically when you're just in going deep to the blockchain node, and you start thinking about, okay, what else is something, is there anything else that is going to be kind of something innovative, or changing the perception of blockchain world. And when you start talking to these different young students and young entrepreneurs, it's something very kind of special thing. So that's why we're starting to focus on this community and building this community with universities.
Yeah, that I think when you speak to people, we did a project in collaboration with New York University, NYU here in New York. It's the two bridges behind me, Manhattan Bridge and Brooklyn Bridge. Is that the students are just so excited. Like if you're new to IT, computer science, or products and want to get into tech, the preferred employer is not Facebook. The preferred employee is some, up and coming or steward Web3
Yeah.
company. That's where people want to go, and I think there's a huge gap of resources. Not only, as you say, about developer resource, which does exist, and we can have better work, but people don't know necessarily what they can do, and they get really inspired when they talk to people who can connect the dots about the real world, like retail, like this is how it can apply, and they can help and do and put it together. I think this idea of connecting the use cases and the new energy of this upcoming wave of Web3, not only developer but entrepreneurs and product people and community builders, it's absolutely the right thing to do. And the friction is high. So any gentle on-ramp into that journey of Web3, building substantive product, not just talking, actually building is quite appreciated. So I think it's really cool. So are you guys going to be making your course available in the university, or you want to make it like kind of an online open thing?
Yeah, we guessed about the second option because, very popular thing to know about other things is YouTube, of course. So we saw like
Yeah.
students are just starting to, typing their requests on YouTube, and there is like obviously someone who have already faced this issue, and they start recording these videos about. So, and the question is
Yeah.
about like, should I trust them, or is there any kind of the verification where is it really true story, or like kind of fake info that because news are very like right now, since the media has extended quite large, so it's quite hard to select which one is right thing, which one is wrong. So that's why we're just trying to build a trust and reliable and worthy online platform where people could get knowledge without thinking about like, okay, so are they true experts or not, or something. So this is going to be a very reliable thing, I guess.
That's great. The noise level is quite high now. Obviously, in the bull market, it's especially noisy. I don't know if we're in a bear market, but in a market where you have a little bit of chance to catch your breath, you get people who are really committed to Web3. Saying more things, and then the signal to noise ratio. But I think there's a huge curation problem of good resources. So I think that's really, really great. So zooming out a little bit, seeing the partners that you have on the blockchain stuff providing capability, but also seeing dApp builders building. What use cases and category of applications that's being built on top of the GetBlock infrastructure that you are particularly excited about, especially in the next wave of consumer or even business-to-business adoption of blockchain? You guys have a front row seat to know what people are building next, what's scaling up. What excites you in the use case front?
Oh, that's when we started, we launched in 2019, and we had lots of things like just thinking about, okay, where is the right place to go in, and started to thinking about different wallets, exchanges, because we thought about like, okay, so definitely any exchange or any wallet, they would love to add more tokens and coins to their network, to their project.
Yes.
So we saw that the GetBlock, since we support more than like 40 plus available blockchain nodes, were quite useful for them and valuable in terms of adding more and more tokens and coins they support. We saw that there is a huge value in terms of exchanges in that stuff. And in 2021, when there was a kind of booming of the trading and finance, we saw a new vertical where people started to use trading bots, and that was very kind of fantastic. Amount of people started to develop their own algorithms of just estimating what is the next pricing for the next upcoming protocol. So we saw like people were just constantly interested in node providing services, especially with low latency, with maximum speed or something. So they were just kind of addicted to this.
Right.
And that was very interesting. We had lots of talks with different users on that. They were just, okay, I need the fastest node as possible, and they're still using GetBlock. So we're very happy to be and bring them this huge value to their financial statement and all this interest in trading. And I guess more and more use cases are coming. So we saw that there is almost like kind of very interesting story about the oracles, where they gain data from blockchain nodes and they start to compare with different node providing services. That was another use case. I didn't know exactly what, but we had this wonderful talks with different oracles. They shared their some experience. And I guess right now we're just going deeply to some kind of NFT market and Web3 kind of mixture of those verticals. And we see that our nodes are very suitable for NFT purposes as well. And for Web3, they're just using this as a kind of data for different manipulations and research.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to think about the blockchain as a opportunity for this availability of customer data, interactions, and relationship. But to get that data into something you can mine and you can kind of make sense of it and do either customer acquisition in a more traditional sense or even airdrop in a more Web3 native sense to the right people, you got to get the data, and the data has to come by way of something. Do you guys offer any type of like pre-built data service? If I want to say, can I get the history of Ethereum NFT transactions for this thing for the last 10 days? Can you give it to me without running the node and syncing it? Is that something you provide, like data as a bundle for this type of analytic use cases?
Yeah, we had this talk with different students, and they were requiring the same thing. It's just so surprising me right now, because you talked about the same thing that student asked me to do this, I guess, several months ago. Yeah, and we were thinking, okay, let's do something on this particular way. We're developing it right now. We're just doing kind of small research on that, like kind of very, we're going kind of gradual on this. And we saw like there is an opportunity and requirement to get some kind of tool where you have this ability, to export some data without running a node. All you have is just, putting these filters and then start exporting data to your specific needs for your analytical purposes. So we were thinking about, okay, let's do something on that. So this is another thing where you just open it quite like the door I was trying to close right now. So yeah, this is the thing, like we're also working right now. So basically, I guess in the near future you'll be available to get this data without running a node. But actually, you already have this tool, right? GetBlock, because you are not running physically any node. All you have is just one API string, and you start, getting tons of data with just requests and that stuff. So the thing I was
Yeah.
talking about was just kind of, dashboard with all these filters and starting exploring exporting the raw
Yeah.
data.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think about all the airdrops for tokens like Optimism, they are really trying to get customers into the ecosystem or user in the ecosystem by airdropping beyond users of Optimism during the testnet phase. So that's really about like, oh, let me find some data from activity history of various chain and do airdrops to them against their addresses. So those type of analytic use cases, which is kind of marketing, if you think about it, it's a type of customer acquisition in a traditional Facebook targeting set. You're just targeting different user, different protocol to get them to on your protocol. And we have a data science team at Cardstack, and the first thing they ask for is how do I get the data? Well, the answer of running your own Ethereum node and syncing from Genesis to get the thing seems a lot of work. Actually, we did that once, and we was paying $10,000 a month for like a full node doing syncing
Yeah.
on AWS.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, and again, that is not a differentiated service. Like you guys have those data sets in your server. So it's fantastic to hear that people can just begin with the analytic and not trying to get the data acquisition, especially as public data everybody have access to.
That's true. That's true. We had lots of feedback saying like we would set a devoted team for the running and maintaining the node. We spent so many resources on just running a node, and we had so many costs on just making sure that it's synchronized fully. And it's not just, as you mentioned, it's not about labor. It's also about the servers you run this node on. So like the capacity, it should be very matched together. So like if we talk about Solana, for example, that has lots of data in it. So it's not just about getting any server
Yes.
that might be suitable for this. You should be capable to make a huge giant request on that. So this is also another challenge usually faced by other projects they're just that are intent or interested in running their own nodes. So it's very, as you've mentioned, it's time safety. It's also about the cost cutting when you're using the third-party services like GetBlock or some and many other net providing services. It's just about like a team full of people that are interested in monitoring and constantly looking at your infrastructure, and without any you don't have to think about, oh, okay, so is my node working good or something. All you have to do is just, okay, just looking at my project, everything works great. I have my API string and I have my dashboards, and so everything just looks fine.
Yeah, and it allows us team like ours, which is focused on the UI and the wallet layer, to focus on what we do best, which is finding metaphors and abstraction that make sense for the next generation of migrants to Web3. The natives are okay with all the jargon that we could throw at them, but if we want to be crossing over to the broader tech world, we have to abstract it more. And the abstraction doesn't eliminate the needs of the infrastructure. It just makes it easier to use for an end user. So I think we all have our own slice of work of building the land of the Web3 cut out for us. And we certainly thank you for all the time that your team has put in to make sure that you can support customers, small customers like ours, but hopefully, the ability for us to grow as the demand grows on our layer 2 protocol, that would make sense. And I'm sure that applies to many one of your customers as well. So Aziz, thank you so much for enlightening us on what GetBlock is working on and the various services you have. I do believe that anybody who is building on blockchain, once they go beyond the free nodes, if you want to run a professional service, professional dApp on behalf of your customer, you need to think about reliabilities, service level, and stuff like that. And I think GetBlock should definitely be on your list of consideration. So is there anything else you want to add before we conclude today?
Thanks a bunch, Chris, for having me. That was amazing to talk to you personally, and thanks, guys, for just allowing us to talk about these blockchain nodes, etc. This is kind of some first steps to start our education platform, and we're super glad to participate in your projects.
Nice.
We do love you guys. We do love your project, and we are all the time ready to support it anyhow you want. So this is the GetBlock. This is our mission to be very effective and very, I would say, valuable to the projects. And thanks a bunch. And I guess that's pretty much everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think we do this Web3 Watch series also for the purpose of education, to make sure that there's opportunity for people to hear about what's going on in Web3 beyond the mainstream headline of tradings and numbers going up, numbers going down. It is, we're part of that ecosystem. So it's certainly something we're aware of, like the weather. But we live our lives, depends on, regardless whether it's hot or cold outside, or it's already raining and snowing or scorching, right? So we keep doing our work, we keep building, we'll build responsibly, trying to build software that's safe for users, that is reliable for business to rely upon, and more importantly, unlock the potential of decentralization that everybody talks about. But we're beginning to unveil the advantage as we kind of one step at a time put the Lego block together to build the decentralized world that we can live in every day. So thank you very much, Aziz, for your time and your insight, and for your community, your Cardstack community. Thank you very much for joining us. We do this every Wednesday premiere at 9 a.m. Eastern time to talk to builders and in this space. Until next time, take care. Thank you.